Hey there yarn lovers, it's Gary and I'm in my living room coming to you from Vancouver, Canada. So welcome. Today is Friday the 28th, 2020 and this is video 35. I wanted to say a big welcome back to all of those subscribers who have both recently subscribed or have been with me since day one or for a while. And for those of you who have just come on board and visiting for the very first time, this is a podcast I've set up to talk about my yarn journey. So all things yarn related in my craft, like knitting, crocheting, and recently I've been dabbling in some dyeing. So I really have been enjoying that. And this particular recording that I'm doing, I am touching base on some of the artistic direction that we have within our brain and our process of crafting, and how we go and veer into one direction thinking well and truly that we've got an idea or a yarn is speaking to us to do something with it, but for some reason the vision and the coming together of the elements, so to speak, our tools and our equipment kind of slightly go into a different direction, or we come up to a brick wall where we think, oh my God, I think I'm going down the wrong pathway. So I've encountered a few of those as well, which I want to touch on as well in this recording. And so let's begin with a finished item. So as you recall from my previous podcasts, I was doing a whole bunch of neck warmers. I did 3 all up was the request. A friend of, I guess a work colleague of hubby's, her mother had gifted me all of the yarn, all of the equipment to create these neck warmers. Now I'm going to leave the pattern that I followed down below in the description box. It is a paid pattern and you'll find that from, I believe it's Ravelry. So this is the third and final one that I have knitted up for her. It's in the fashion of a keyhole neck warmer or scarf. So there is a loop here that holds the two together, and I believe the pattern is called Stay Put Scarf by Phyl. So correct me if I'm wrong, it's going to be included in the description box below. So what I had used for this third and final one is Red Heart Soft Essential Stripes. It's a bulky 5 and it is in the colorway Purple Rain Stripes. That will go to her along with the other one. She already has her first one and she sent me a photograph of her wearing it. So I'm super stoked that she is very happy with the end result. I wasn't quite sure. A lot of these elements in that particular pattern were quite new to me, so I am so thankful that I had read the pattern correctly and it was fitting her, so that's great. Now I guess I'm going to start talking about my dye. So my dyeing experiment started when I threw in a crocheted shawl completed piece into a pot of bubbling food dye that I had in the kitchen, and it came out very successfully, and that's in my previous video, I believe 34. So if you're interested, you can go back and have a look at that. And I was testing out whether or not I wanted to get more equipment and more official professional dyes to go down that rabbit hole. So I did, and I went to Granville Island, which is a little location here close by in Vancouver. Well, it's in Vancouver, but it's close for me to get to, and I purchased some professional dyes, which I'll showcase and talk about in a moment. But I will put some photographs here or here if I know how to figure out how to do that, on what I had to purchase. I had to purchase a large pot that I put on the stove and some tongs so that I could both put the yarn in and retrieve the yarn out of without having to use my hands. You know, it's always great to wear gloves, that's what the directions say, and also to wear a dust mask. So those are the safety things that I had to adhere to. So I went out and bought all of the equipment for that. And a little bit about what I did was, I think a few months back, because I remember my Christmas tree being up in this particular video, I was showcasing a vest with cables that I had knitted up. It was one of my first projects, and it was quite a baggy looking vest that I was thinking about, like either frogging back or fixing up the neck, or kind of like fixing up the issues that I had with it, like larger holes, and it was kind of a bit too big. So it was, this is my first run at that vest with the yarn that I had chosen for it. So it's a bottom-up vest knitted in the round, and these were the beginning of the cable and the ribbing that I was looking at. And this one was even larger than what I had in the end. So I kept this on a lifeline, and I just wanted to like keep it to maybe for record of number of stitches and what my cabling design was that I had mapped out for myself. So this is the yarn that I used. It was from Loops and Threads Impeccable, and the color was Heather. So I threw it into the pot, and I had chosen a specific dye that I had purchased, and it came in this little pack here. It's called I dye, and it's for the natural fibers, but also 100% polyester. So even though my Impeccable was not polyester, it was 100% acrylic. This dye was great for dyeing the color for acrylic. So it was in the silver gray select color selection, and it came with a tablet inside of this package and a satchel of liquid, some sort of binding liquid. So I followed the directions, and I advise anyone who purchases the dyes, and it might be not from this particular company, to follow the directions that they suggest to use. But on these directions, it said just to use a stainless steel or enamel pot and add enough water in it to let the garment or the yarn move around freely. And the pot that I bought was possibly a 20-liter pot. It was quite a large pot, and I filled it up with enough water with the garment inside to see how it was going to sit inside of the pot with the water. And then I pulled it out and kind of like drained off the excess water back into the pot, and I added the tablet and the satchel of liquid that they have in this little pack, and stirred it around, and then I put the garment into the water that was simmering. It wasn't super duper hot, it was simmering for about 45 minutes. And the price of this satchel, if you're ever inclined to do something with a garment of your own, perhaps maybe you don't like the color and you spent time to knit or crochet up a piece, this cost $5.95 Canadian. So yeah. So do you want to see the garment? I'm going to try and do something here with my editing, and I'm going to do my click over my fingers, and I'm going to be wearing it. Okay, here we go. So here it is, and as you can tell, it is an oversized vest, but honestly, from bubbling it away for 45 minutes in a simmer pot, it actually even got bigger. So yeah, it didn't do any damage to the yarn base. The color took, so the silver gray did come out, and if you want to compare, this is what it was in the beginning. So for me, the color was a little bit too pale for my skin, my complexion, so I wanted to darken it up, and this one was actually bigger than the one that I threw into the pot, but now with cooking this one, it's actually bigger than the one I redone, so that I began in the beginning. So Just a word of caution that if you are throwing your garment into the pot, it's going to do something to the structure of how many, like your gauge. It's gonna loosen up the gauge or do something to it. But in this case, it loosens it up, and it became a very, very floppy, drapey fabric. I don't mind it. I think it's great. I will wear this around the house, and I won't wear this outside. It's a little bit too big for me. I'll just get up so you can see. So it's, as I said, the color took very well, and it made the fabric quite light and airy, and there's no crispiness to it. It didn't melt the yarn, as what I've seen in some of the testers out there that do yarn experiments on acrylic, is that their yarn base starts to melt and becomes quite crispy. The other thing that I threw in there was another yarn base that I had purchased from, I believe it was lovecrafts.com. I purchased Good Earth, and they had a sale on Good Earth that I had took advantage of. This was back before I started my YouTube channel, and I bought 4 skeins in the Safari colorway, and I bought 4 skeins in, I believe this one is called Coffee or brown, something brown, like brown coffee or something like that. And I found that these fibers, which are linen and cotton, were too much like twine. Very, very rough. Not, I would say, great for a flowy fabric, but good for, like, if you wanted to make baskets or if you wanted to make bags, something more durable. And they said in other kind of like, I guess, social media, because I Googled to see whether you could soften it up in some way. And what my findings were a lot of people were saying that after a few washes, it does soften up. But I hand washed these skeins 3 or 4 times, and they did not soften up at all. They always came back quite stiff. And so I thought, well, I'll use them for other things other than garments. And I'm going to make a crocheted bag up. But I threw one of these into the pot as it was bubbling away with this best in it. And I wanted to see what it would do, because the package said that it also adhered to linens and cottons. And this is what the 2 fibers are made up of. And I threw in a safari color. So I put in this safari color one. And this is what it came out like. So a nice in between of the two. So that would make up a nice bag, or a nice project bag maybe, would be a good idea for making up these. So yeah, I am happy to report that this particular brand of dye works excellent for if you are using acrylic that you want to change the color of, and linen and cotton as well. So it works up really well. The other thing is that it worked well with the Impeccable. So I'm not sure if it's good for all acrylics, but this is the one that I used. It's the Impeccable from Loops and Threads. So that is my little experiments. My other thing that I want to talk about is a work that I'm working on. I showcased it in the last video. I got a little bit more done on it. So this is my granny, corner to corner granny stitch. And I believe my progress keeper was up to here. So I had showcased all of that, and I have since gone to a point all the way over to there. I mean, I can wear it like it is now and just tie in all of my ends, but I think I want to do the point the other way as well. The other thing that I'm doing is working on the block party idea of using those two amazing skeins that everyone was saying or had did a little bit of a vote on, and it came back that that was the leading choice from the fiber friends that I have to work up. I am going to insert the second attempt at using that bright citrusy, it's a chartreuse color with a very, very, very dark green, which is, I thought originally it was a black, but it's actually very, very dark green. So this is this was the second attempt at trying to use that yarn. I'll just put it up here in the video. As you can see from the photograph, it is quite a dense fabric, and the colors I felt weren't working up the way I wanted it to be working up in my knitted design that I was thinking of. So I scrapped it, I pulled it all back, and it was like maybe 4 nights of work that I had put into it. And so I thought to myself, like, do I need to kind of like work on this straight away? Maybe I should wait. But I was eager to figure out a way of using that yarn. And because it was beautiful yarn, the touch and feel of it was just phenomenal. To work it up with my needles, it was such a great yarn, but I just didn't like the way the colors were coming out. So what I had done was I raided my stash. I spent maybe 2 hours going through my stash and making up kind of little like swatches with it, like maybe 1 or 2 rows, and then pulling it back if I didn't like the look of how they combined. And what I ended up discovering was the best possible solution for what I had in mind was just going plain, because it was such a bright thing already. So I chose, this is Hobium yarn called Cashmere Gold, and it is a sport weight that I got, and it's from Madame Tricot Paris in the colorway, I believe it's called beige. So choosing a still color to kind of divide up those bright colors, and this is what I worked up over, I think, 2 nights. So I'm creating a fabric that uses that citrusy, what is it called, chartreuse green, and I'm mixing it with the other choice, which was the black and the beige, so, or the ivory colors, which sort of slightly runs a little bit into like a darker cream. So I am doing a flood of each of these colors as I work it up. So I love the fabric, and I just like the choice better. It showcases the colors more. And it's quite a stretchy fabric. And what I'm doing, I'm finding it takes a long time for me to work this up, because the nature of the yarn is quite small. It's DK. And the 2 yarns that I'm holding together, they're originally each, I believe they're a 1, which is a maybe not a lace weight, somewhere between a lace weight and a fingering weight. So, but I hold them 2 together, and then they work up to be a DK. So yeah, I've got I've got balls of yarn on either side of this circular needles, and as I knit back and forth, I change up each of the threads, and I carry them up the sides. So I have maybe 5 yarn balls connected to this one piece right now, and it is quite cumbersome when I have to turn the work. I have to get all the 5 balls and just swing them around so that they don't tangle, and as you can see, it's quite easy to get a tangle. I would love to hear your opinions on whether figuring out a system would make this knitting experience go a lot quicker, so that I'm not having to untangle 5 different separate yarn balls. I was thinking that perhaps maybe having 2 stools in front of each other, where I just drop the piece after I do a row and then go around to the other stool and become the mirror image of myself, pick up the piece and start knitting the other way, may even come into a better method than knitting 1 row and then having to swing all those balls around. So I don't know, that seems like a bit of a process to me. So if you have any suggestions, that would be great. And I'm thinking of making this a scarf, so I'm going to be growing it lengthwise and possibly until everything runs out, and that way I can feel that I've answered the call to the yarn and how it best describes what I would like to wear. The other varieties of attempts that I have tried, I knew that I would never wear the item, and I'd never feel like I'd want to wear it because the colors were just too bright, or not too bright, but they were a little bit too crazy for me. So I think something a little bit like this works better in my wardrobe, that I would be proud to wear this. So this is a particularly touching shout out that I'm going to be giving in this video clip. It's to one of my fiber friends that I met back in October through the YouTube channel, and her name is Kerryn Wright. We have been chatting about all things life, Australia. We have that connection because I'm originally from there, and also yarn. So in this particular email that I got from her recently, she gifted me the Mug Cozy Coaster combo. And I just want to talk about Kerryn a little bit, because I see her commenting on a lot of our videos, and she's such a great support to all of us who are struggling with our yarn explorations, and YouTube, in my case, my YouTube channel as well. Like, I appreciate all of the support and encouragement that she provides me. So a little bit about Kerryn Wright is that she's doing something beautiful on her Etsy shop. And with this particular pattern that she gifted me, it's a paid for pattern, and all of the proceeds that she has through this pattern are going, 100% of them are going to the South Australia firefighters. So it's up until Mother's Day, which I believe internationally it's the same day in the year, and it's happens to fall this year, I believe, on May the 10th. So if you are visiting and want to contribute to getting a great pattern and also do a wonderful thing for those firefighters of Australia who are now rebuilding, and I believe there are probably still situations where fire is something that needs to be supported. So this would be a great way of doing it. And it brings together so many wonderful things that I love. I love crochet and I love pottery, because I'm a potter, and I have these many mugs that I have in my kitchen that I've made. So I'm going to be testing out this pattern, and there is a part in the pattern that talks about customizing to fit certain mug shapes and sizes. So I will be looking into that as well. But I'm going to leave Kerryn's information down below, where you can find her on Ravelry as well as her Etsy store. So if you have a need to find a great pattern, this is a good one for you to try out. And I believe that is all that I need to talk about today. I've caught you up on what I'm doing with my progress on the shawl, my finished one item, which is going to my hubby's friend's mother, and a little bit about my fun dyeing experiment and this oversized vest. It's only going to be worn around the house. I am not going outside with this, but it's fun, and I found an interesting way of utilizing a yarn that I thought I would never be happy with. So now I'm going to be coloring it with dye and creating baskets and project bags. And with that, I think that's it. Just a little bit of housekeeping to go through, and that is that I'm not affiliated with any of the brands that I've mentioned. Any of the links that I'm putting down below are for your ease of access, and they're not accredited in any way, which give me funds. So I want to say thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing my video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.